Hello, everyone, and welcome to the KeenGamer podcast. I'm your host, Marco Callahan, and we have a great episode for you guys today. It's new scene. Jessica, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Mark. How are you doing?
Pretty good. And then rounding out the cast, we have Daniel. Daniel, what's up?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling heroic today. I've done 3 podcasts and I've already spoke about Doctor Strange, and eventually we're going to get to that today. So I can't wait to repeat myself.
Ooh. Well, hopefully we can add a little more flavor to that.
Yeah, this will be
Knowing my
this will be the real
opinion,
version. That
then-
was just the first draft. This is the
Yeah.
this, the proper stuff, the meaty
The
stuff.
revision. Dearest fans, Doctor Strange. So we have a great episode for you guys today. We will be talking a lot of news today. No main topic because we are going to record another episode, a review of Doctor Strange. But before we get into all of that, so Jessica, what game are you playing today?
I've been playing today and yesterday and the day before that and the day before that Halo Infinite Season 2. It's dropped a new mode called Last Part Spartan Standing, and it's kind of like their mini Battle Royale mode. And I know we were making fun of Battle Royales the other episode, talking about how, everything has to have a Battle Royale, but this is actually pretty good. There's not really an emphasis on the circle coming in. It does happen, but it's just to force you to stop camping. And you get you all start with the same weapon, and when you gain experience by killing people or picking up experience balls that they drop when they die, you upgrade your weapon. So you start with an electric pistol, you upgrade to a mangler, then you upgrade an assault rifle, a long range weapon, and a shotgun, and so on and so on, until you get to, it starts with 12 Spartans until you get to 1. It's a new map. It's called Breaker, I believe, and it's pretty cool. And I'm actually surprised by how into Halo Infinite Season 2 I got, because I kind of out of the first season. The battle pass is still not really worth it. I don't think anybody's thrilled to get Mark 4 armor for your left knee pad, that's what you're trying to get. They did have cool events where you could get a samurai type armor, but I'd noped out of it by that point. But I just, it's just Halo. It's fun. I'm playing that last Spartan Standing, and then I'm going into Fiesta to try and get more experience, just to play Fiesta, really. That's where you get random weapons every time you respawn. It's kind of just I've talked about it before. I was really into Halo 3, and I played so much Halo Online, and this is kind of taking me back to that, where I was just that's all I've done today. Except for preparing for the podcast, I just played Halo, and I'm having such a good time. And I actually quite like the last Spartan Standing, but I'd be remiss to talk about the issue I had with this launching. The challenges aren't tracking properly in last Spartan Standing, because you have 5 respawns basically, and then you're out. You can continue to watch the match, or you can leave. You're allowed to leave and you won't get penalized, but you don't get your challenge progress until that match ends for everyone. But that's also on a delay. So you actually don't know what you've got out of the challenges are get 5 headshots, or get 25 melee kills from behind, or experience in a match. And you don't actually know how much you've still got to go. So should I continue playing Last Spartan Standing? Because that's the challenge specific thing to get this type of free stuff in this event. So that's kind of a bummer. And then there was the Microsoft outage for Xbox over the weekend, so a lot of people haven't been able to get on and playing Halo. There was stuff with the cloud, and I think some people actually weren't even getting their challenges at all. It wasn't counting. But they are giving free stuff away. They're making the challenges easier on Tuesday so that people can get caught up. But it's been a little bit disastrous. But despite that, I'm actually really having an awesome time with Halo. I don't know if either of you two were Halo fans back in the day or now, but it was really fun.
I've never played a Halo game.
You've
Nope.
never played? What?
That is my biggest sin.
Really? Both of you?
I've played. Well, that's a lie. I've played a Halo game once when I was drunk in a friend's house. He was really good at it online, so he was showing off, and we all kind of took a shot. And I think I got about 4 kills before I got killed. My very first time playing it, so I was quite happy with that. I was like, do you know what? That's a wee result. But yeah, that's all my experience with Halo.
The authentic Halo experience. Yeah, playing drunk online.
Kids, I want you to listen to me. Don't drink and play Halo. It's not safe.
Yeah, I'd encourage you guys to play it if you did have Game Pass. I know you don't have an Xbox yet, Mark, but and the
Keyworders, yeah.
there's rumors that there was the news that Fortnite just came on Xbox Cloud Gaming and it was free. There's rumors that Halo Infinite is like the next one or one of the next ones where you don't need gold, you don't need the game because it's on Game Pass. They're going to make it free for people to play as well, so that'd be cool. More people playing Halo would be awesome. Yeah, another thing, it's kind of a bit for so many people playing Halo and for being so big, it takes a little bit long to get into a match. Like it says you're waiting like 40 seconds, but for me it's more like 2 minutes. I don't know whether that's my internet connection, but it's kind of like, yeah, and then you're like, oh god, I have to wait 2 minutes. Come on.
You see, you mentioned internet connection and you froze for a second. I'm like, don't bring that evil into the stream, Jessica.
Well, yeah, I don't know what internet you have over here, Dan, but I've got Virgin and it is absolutely awful in my area.
Mine's is okay.
You see, we got the Elon Musk thing going on in America, so we're all good. Just kidding. I'm like, yeah, we have the internet. What service? The internet.
We can browse the web. Yeah.
Yeah. We can send mail online. I went from like, we're so technological advanced. I'm like, just JK, guys. We're in the 90s.
Yeah, just kidding. We can send e-mail. Yeah, Halo, it's good, and I wish I got into it over the Christmas break, and I'm really happy that I'm back into it because it's just reminded me of being 14 again, having absolutely nothing else to do with my life. Only now I'm trying to slot it in. Really, really fun, and it's not like the most unique take on a battle royale, this last Spartan Standing, but it's a good start. I like it.
How many hours did you play as a kid? It was like something outrageous, like 1,400.
It was just 1,000.
Oh, well, it's not that bad.
Yeah. That was mostly one really long summer. Just playing Halo 3.
Remember that great summer, guys? Hanging out by the pool, swinging on a tire. Master Chief.
Master Chief, yeah.
That was my summer. Except it was Mario.
Yeah, you were like, woohoo!
That's the goal.
Yeah, Spartan Slade.
Well, that's on Mario.
Yeah.
Yet. We don't know what's in the movie.
Yeah, that's why Miyamoto delayed it.
Are you sure it's Miyamoto?
This is Miyamoto.
I swear, we should have covered that news last week.
We should have done some heavy investigative reporting to see if it was actually Miyamoto, because that's a bit sus,
We should have had this podcast should have been like a serial podcast. Do you know Serial?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the true crime. It's like, dun, dun, dun. And then I saw the tweet. Dun, dun, dun. This is Miyamoto. Dun, dun, dun. But is it?
I'll put it on the board, Mark. We need to do that.
Yeah. So Halo.
Awesome stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be interesting if they did the free to play on Game Pass. I wonder if it's like, would you get any other benefits, or is it just, it's on Game Pass?
Yeah, I don't know, because it's on Game Pass, and at the moment, with your Game Pass subscription, you get some XP boosts and challenge swaps, but I don't know about that separate cloud gaming app that Fortnite went on to, because it would again incentivize people. I won't play on the PC, I'll play it through this, and more people under the Microsoft ecosystem, which is what they're clearly aiming for.
Listen, me and my grandma have something in common. The only clouds we know are up in the sky.
It was a dark joke.
Oh, that's not dark. I've been watching Ted Lasso, so I've been working on my metaphors.
Oh, okay.
The grandma I'm talking about is still alive.
So that's slightly less dark then.
Knock on wood. So are you going to continue playing more Halo?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I get like really into something for like a week and then you kind of just forget about it. With Halo, I don't feel like that because it's just, a pick up and play. I don't need to remember a story. I don't even really remember the controls. It's just there. I feel like if I get some free time, like I didn't know what to do. I had some free time yesterday. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Well, I guess I'll just play Halo. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with it. I think at least the clear the battle pass this time and the challenge cards. And I know we're finishing this conversation, but another thing I found really cool about their battle passes is you're not really incentivized to get it, I don't think, unless you want those items. But you don't actually lose out, because I was really hyped for Halo Infinite when it was coming out, and I just bought it. Didn't even know what the hell I was doing, really. Irresponsible with my money. You don't actually lose out on that progress. I can go back and swap to that battle pass anytime. Kind of like, in Avengers Mark, where you can just swap between characters.
Yeah.
Like what thing you're going to go to. I can just do that at any point. So if I do get really into it, I'll just work on the Season 1 battle pass again, which I think is pretty cool.
Dope. And Jessica, you never have to apologize. Take it from me, the king of tangents. So anyway, last Saturday, my mom and I, no. Anything else you want to add about Halo?
Don't think so. I think I did cover it all. If you were like me and you kind of dropped off Halo 4, Halo 5, I'd give it a go if you've got a Game Pass subscription. It's pretty fun.
Awesome. So we are talking about something current, and we're going to transition to something kind of retro. Dan, you've been playing Metal Gear Solid 1. How's that?
So Jessica mentioned earlier that she'd only played 1,000 hours of Halo, and I kind of laughed. But see, to be honest, I don't have a leg to stand on, because if you count up all the times I've played Metal Gear Solid, it's got to be breaching 1,000 hours. Yeah, this is, I don't know what time this is. This is like I don't know. I've lost count of how many times I've played the game. But yes, I got it running on my phone recently on an emulator. Whoa. So it is it's still my favorite game ever. And yeah, just to be back to it again, it's one of the things that I just revisit it at least once a year. There's certain things that I'll just read, like Batman: The Long Halloween. I read that once a year. I play Metal Gear Solid. I watch Pulp Fiction. There's certain stuff in media that I'll just go back to it, and Metal Gear Solid is one of them. And yeah, I've played it on near enough every platform available. So played it on mobile with virtual controls. Does make it a bit harder at certain parts. And do you know what's really threw me? See, when you get to the Psycho Mantis fight and you have to switch the controller port. Try to do that on an emulator. I remember the first time I played it on PC, that was an issue. I think Good Old Games brought out a port like a year or two ago, and I played that. That was actually the last time I played it. And yeah, that scene with the controller was a pain in the arse. And yeah, same again with the phone. See, having to I don't even remember what I did. I had to add another virtual controller, and anyway, I got around it eventually. But yeah, there's just mad things. And then the scene with Psycho Mantis reading your memory card, like he's reading your phone's memory. Like
I see you've been playing Candy Crush.
Well, what you can do as well.
Make fun of my Candy Crush, Jess.
Obviously, on an emulated game, you can just do a quick save. So when I was playing through it, I was just doing quick saves. But I was still, I'm playing it kind of when I'm sort of quiet, and I've got a few minutes, and I can just whip my phone out and play a wee bit at it, wait in the car and stuff. So I have been saving it and sort of putting it away and going back to it quite a lot. And yet, when Psycho Mantis uses a memory card, I see you're reckless. You've not saved the game very often. And I was like, well, I've been using quick save actually, Psycho Mantis, so you just can't read it. But yeah, it's still great. It holds up. It's nostalgic. It's maybe not the best game to look at. The tank controls are super dated, but if you know what you're getting into and you grew up playing it, then it's phenomenal. I'm really enjoying it, as always.
Yeah, there's something about that, honestly. Like, it doesn't look good. It's not like 8-bit or 16-bit graphics that hold up, but you go back and you play like Resident Evil or Metal Gear, and you're like, oh, this is so good. The way this looks, all blocky. Snake's face is like one polygon.
Although that's the thing about Metal Gear, I know a lot of games for that era. Although the in-game graphics are poor, one, I think I really commend the guts that it took for them to say, do you know what? Yeah, these graphics look awful. They look really poor, but we're going to do all of our cutscenes in engine. We're not going to have, CG cutscenes. Metal Gear Solid is one of the first games that I remember doing that. And then also the fact that what's his name? Yoji Shinkawa did all of the concept art and designs for the game. So even though the actual graphics in the game are poor, when you look at the game's cover and the old instruction booklet for the first game, like the art in there is beautiful, and the sort of all the concept art behind it stuff was, the design's good and the aesthetics good. It's just they didn't have the technology at the time. But yeah, it's still just. It's more the tone of the game, the atmosphere of the game, being in Shadow Moses and hearing that old theme, and the old score.
Yeah.
It's just like for Harry Gregson Williams. It takes you right back to being, I don't know, in primary school again. Playing this game for the first time and being like, this is what video games can be. They can be, fully fledged stories. They can be like a movie. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's so cinematic. Like I know everyone talks about Hideo Kojima being cinematic and like all of his stuff, but like you said, playing this when you were really young, you were like, "Oh my god, this is incredible!" The way they did that, the direction still holds up, even if it was look a little bit blocky and weird. You're right, using that in ancient stuff, having that awesome music in the background. And yeah, you're right. There's something about I haven't been back to the original Metal Gear Solid in quite a bit. But I imagine it is like a blast from the past. Like the codec still holds up though, because they have sort of that real kind of photorealistic stuff going on. It was a really awesome game for me growing up as well. And I didn't complete it until Twin Snakes came out, but I remember trying to do that Sniper Wolf bit with Meryl, just for 4 days straight trying to get past it. I guess I was really young trying to do it, but there's something nice about going back to it now and knowing what you're doing, and playing through it again.
Yeah, it's great.
That's one of those things, like playing old games. Like, for example, last year I played for the first time ever Final Fantasy VII, the OG, and I feel like, well, not me, but if I showed this to my nephew who's 11, he'd be like, "What is this? They don't look like people.
Yeah,
They're shapes. I learned this in math." But I have the viewpoint of any old games really before my time. It's oh my god, imagine playing this in 97, your mind would be blown. And I feel even though Jessica, I haven't played it in a while, the first time I played it, I'm like, oh wow, people must have been losing their stuff.
And I feel like that's the other thing in gaming. I mean, the jump forward in graphics has obviously become a lot more incremental in the past few generations, and I don't really think we've had that. Personally, I don't think I've had that feeling of seeing a game. Even though you still, you get gorgeous games. Look at The Last of Us 2. Look at, there are certain games that are just kind of graphic pinnacles. But I remember the first time when the jump to HD happened, when we jumped from PS2 to PS3, from SCART to HDMI. I remember the first time I played a FIFA game. It was like FIFA 08 or 09 or something. But just watching the players walking out at the park, I was like, this is like being at Parkhead and watching Celtic walking out. Do you know what I mean? It was this is so real. I've not really had that feeling since then. I don't think that's probably the last time that I felt it. But back in those days, as you're saying, it was so mind blowing, the technology and stuff. I guess the closest thing we have now is VR. Put the first time you try VR, that's maybe a similar feeling. But yeah, I guess there's still places we can go and sort of technology is always advancing. But yeah, the last time I really felt it, I guess, I could say VR. Probably that's the last time I've had that feeling.
Awesome. You know what? I really wanted to just cut out my video and just put on my VR, and I'm like, that's a stupid joke. But anything else you want to add about Metal Gear Solid 1?
No, just that it's still the best game in the series to me. It's still my favorite game ever. It's a big reason for me wanting to do something creative. It's kind of one of those pieces of media that I've seen at a young age that I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is storytelling. This is what I want to kind of get into. Part of the reason that I did animation at university as well, sort of stemmed for that, playing that first game. So it's just a huge part in sort of everything I do nowadays, as a creator and as a writer, I guess. So yeah, huge inspiration.
Awesome. So moving on to what I thought was Daniel's favorite game of all time, SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom. Yeah, I'm playing that game.
The second greatest game of all time, only next to Metal Gear Solid 1.
Yeah.
Yes, Jessica, we all know the Metacritic scores. It's so green, it's practically like camo. I don't know camo. Or colors. I'm not even colorblind, I'm just dumb. Anyway, speaking of dumb, transition. So last month for PlayStation Plus, and not really the final games. I wonder if they're still going to do the free games each month.
Yeah, good point, actually.
I believe I feel like they'll still do that, but who knows? Anyway, so last month, April 2022, one of the games that was free to download was SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom. And the last time I played this was definitely GameCube. I was like tall. You can't even see my hand, but I was short. And playing it now, you know what the comparison is, Dan? It's like taking your tablet and putting it like your brightness all the way down, like a little like bright, and then the Rehydrated is like all the way up. It's super bright, colorful, lit. But I feel like that's kind of a bad thing because well, listen. So when this game came out, it was surprisingly good because it's like, whoa, a licensed tie-in game was playable and good. Huh?
Yeah, you're like SpongeBob. What?
This is a track.
Yeah.
We weren't ready. And oddly enough, like I never even knew it had like a whole history. Like years later, like speedrunners like took a hold of this game and it became very popular of that. And I think the nostalgic and cult classic appeal, that's why they made Rehydrated, aka the remaster. But it's like this might be one of the few remasters to be like, oh, maybe the game wasn't as good.
Oh no.
And the thing is, like, I've been enjoying it, but every time I play a game, it's like, if I'm doing a review of it, how would I rate it? And it's like, yeah, the nostalgia in me is like 7 out of 10, but I'm like, maybe it's too bright and colorful and it kind of loses its art appeal. Maybe a little down. And maybe they really didn't like fix the controls. Like it still plays like a 2003 game. And maybe just bump that down. And you really couldn't get the voice actor from Mr. Krabs because they used the same audio from 2003. And I don't know why. So Clancy Brown, who plays Mr. Krabs, which also he plays Lex Luthor in the DC shows. Fun fact.
Good range.
God, great range. But like they have someone else and it's so noticeable. And I really thought they were going to be like, hey, Clancy, can you just record this dialogue in the booth? But they're like, no. And there's all these things. I'm like, oh, man. I would probably give it a 5 out of 10.
Oof. So this is one of those ones where going back isn't going so well.
Well, I feel like the positive thing about like playing this game, I'm like, man, SpongeBob was really good. Like back in the day. And I'm not even like one of those fans like, oh, the new stuff is so bad because I haven't technically watched the new stuff. I don't want to be judged that hard. You can judge me for playing SpongeBob, but not watching it. New stuff.
You're like, I will only stoop to here, not to here.
It's like, Mark, were you high? I was like, no, sober, man. Drinking my Pellegrino.
Mark, I can't judge. I still watch. I go back and watch Pokemon sometimes. Pokemon movie. I watch current kids shows. Really can. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll watch the Gravity Falls with my niece. Let's see what this is like. But no judgment from me.
When you stepped out of the room, Jessica, Daniel and I were talking. It's like Daniel mentioned, like, man, they don't make SpongeBob like they like used to. Like, I'm assuming like they don't make other shows like SpongeBob, right, Daniel? I'm mincing words.
Yeah, 100%. Like
that. Horrible paraphrasing stuff.
Close enough.
FYI. Close enough, and I'll take that as a compliment. But and it's like kid shows today, like they're still really good. But it's like you watch, even though I haven't seen Gravity Falls, I have to because I heard like a lot of acclaim. Like, oh my god, it's like serialized and all like these different themes and creativity. It's like, oh wow, like they kind of like not grown up with the audience, but it's like, okay, kids can like take a little more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I feel like it's better now. Like my mom's sitting there watching Digimon or Pokemon with me, was like, "What the hell is going on?" Whereas I'm watching this stuff with my nieces, going, "Oh, there's something actually in this for like a parent or a guardian watching it with them." You know,
like with like kids media, I feel like 2 different types. This is like only for kids, and then there's for everyone. And I think SpongeBob is for everyone. My Uncle Ward, God rest his soul, loved it. Granted, he was high, but you know what? No joke. I'm like, man, I'm thinking back. I'm like, man, Uncle Ward really loved SpongeBob. Like back when I was watching 2002 and 3, and I'm like, thinking about it now. I'm like, huh. Oh,
That makes sense now. Yeah.
everything is clicking together.
Yeah.
Okay, when I say maybe for everyone, it's like, okay, maybe everyone who is stoned, but also
Children and
potentially
stoners.
adults.
Yeah, little asterisks on the side there. You may need to be stoned to enjoy SpongeBob as an adult.
I mean, maybe.
Again, not condoning anything.
I
Yeah,
can't
don't
hurt.
know, like Halo. Hey, don't drink and play Halo, but hey, well, what's SpongeBob?
Smoke a joint, watch SpongeBob. Why not?
Yeah, if it's legal in your state or country, why not?
What a Saturday night.
Yeah, it's talking about Saturday morning cartoon. It's like, ooh, Saturday night. Oh,
I know
but
what I'm
even
doing after this podcast.
so going back to the game, and
Mhm.
it's actually like an interesting transition because I've played like Elden Ring on the PlayStation. Shoot, what was the other game? Assassin's Creed on Switch. And during the same time, I was playing like Bugsnax. By the way, buy Bugsnax. That's for everyone. Very weird. Please don't be stoned watching Bugsnax.
Yeah, you might do something like you might jump out a window or something.
Bunger. Whoa, my gosh. And I'm like, man, it's so weird playing an easy game compared to playing Elden Ring.
Yeah, Mark, I had the exact same thought going from Elden Ring to Kirby. Like it was like,
God.
yeah, it was like, wait, no, hold on, because they had bosses. They're really big, like in Elden Ring, they're really big, but you're just, I'm Kirby, and it's done now. Yeah, I get what you mean.
But it's like, wait a second, I can pause the game, and it's actually pausing
Yeah.
the game.
Can you not pause Elden Ring?
Nope. Well, there was a workaround, wasn't there?
Why not?
I have no clue
Exactly.
because From Software likes to see you suffer, and we like to suffer.
So it's not like an online reason. It's just
No, like you
No.
can be playing totally single player, and it still won't let you pause.
oh, that's
mean,
not.
so
That
you
would put me off it right from the get go.
So you could I'm not even like the hack, but it's like you can pause the game and the menu will come up, but like from the two sides, left and right. But it's like an enemy can still come up and attack you.
Yeah.
So it's like you can like, hey, put the controller down, but make it quick, buddy.
Yeah, it's on you. What happens next?
Like SpongeBob, I can pause. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna make dinner. And not like, oh my God, I got to make these chicken quesadillas like fast. I'm like going back. I'm like, okay, am I good? No wolves, no henchmen attacking me, no crazy stuff. It's like SpongeBob. It's like, hey, go make your dinner.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why instead of 4 out of 10, it's a 5 out of 10. It's like, hey, it made me pause. And it did make me like really nostalgic for SpongeBob. Even though like the game, like let's say like there was a remaster of, you know what? That's a good comparison. Like if they did you know what? I was gonna go with something, and then something else, and then something else, and then something else, and I'm like, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna work. Maybe this Super Mario Sunshine for the Super Mario 3D All Stars. Like it definitely got like HD. It's still the same controls, but it's still a pretty good game. Well, this is like, hey, it's HD. It's so pretty. It's bright. I'll still play the game. It's an easy platinum, but it's like, maybe not. And I played it for free. I wouldn't recommend it. Like, it really has to be on sale. And if you like SpongeBob.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you've got the nostalgia, maybe.
Yeah, like $40 for that game. No. Unless you're buying it for a kid, then.
Yeah. Yeah, like Paw Patrol games these days go for like $60, $70 sometimes. Like, what the hell?
It's nuts.
Jessica, don't talk about my game of the year like that.
As an aside, I was joking around with my nieces. One of them's 8 and one of them's 4, and I was like, "What's your game of the year?" The 8-year-old was like Minecraft, and I was like, "Okay, cool." 4-year-old was like Paw Patrol on a roll. I'm like, "This would make an awesome podcast."
By the way, now I'm like thinking about it. There isn't like a kid. Oh, maybe there is. There probably is, but like a kids only podcast, as in like
It is like insane, so God knows what's on there.
True.
Like a I don't even want to mess with YouTube Kids. That's not even a joke. That's just weird.
That's a dark place. Yeah.
It is. It's like, what's the dark web? It's like
Sure is YouTube, yeah.
YouTube Kids. It's
Oh God.
but it's like a kids podcast. Like kids are the hosts. It's like a Nickelodeon. It's like made by kids for kids.
Mm.
We are not going to green like that. We have Keen Math, Keen Religion. Did we have Keen Religion?
We said no to
Again,
King
like, end of the
Religion.
year, we have so many like potential like ideas of like promotions. Pellegrino, Taco Bell, reach out to us.
Reach out, please. Markin's desperate.
It's not even the money. I just want to be loved.
That's depressing.
So yeah, SpongeBob, great.
5 out of 10.
Yeah, unfortunately, like it's making me nostalgic. Like I'm happy I downloaded it for free, but if it was like $20, it'd be like I could have gambled with that. I would have lost, but the thrill of it,
the endorphins,
is delightful.
Yeah, that's serotonin. Yeah,
that's my serotonin. Thank you, Dan. You get it.
Totally. I'm not adverse to be better too.
Oh well, and would you look at that? I'm still losing. Speaking of still losing, Square Enix. Now we're moving on to the news. Okay, I shouldn't say losing, but
I was going to say that's a good segue.
Again, it's a very hit and miss. Transitions, paraphrasing, jokes. When they hit, it hits. When it misses, people are mad. Anyway, so we are moving on to the news, and that's going to be the big part of the show today. And just a reminder, we are having a separate episode for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness review / spoilers. But you can listen to that on the feed. Anyway, let's jump into the news. So Embracer Group, big buyouts. Again, like, is 2022 like the year of buying stuff?
Apparently.
Honestly, yeah, I think we'll remember
Microsoft,
this.
Activision, Elon Musk, Twitter, me,
Bungie.
Pellegrino. Big stuff.
Yeah, the acquisition war is definitely coming. I wrote an article about this a couple of weeks ago, actually. It's insane how much more frequent it's becoming. It's like every week or every second week there's a new company buying someone else. It's like how long before all the independent companies are just eaten up by corporations.
Again, we also said it was bad news, so you know. So Embracer Group will be acquiring Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, Square Enix Montreal, and that includes Tomb Raider, Thief, Legacy of Kain for $300 million.
Feels like a steal.
That's what I was thinking.
I mean,
I kind of thought it, but then you're like, what is the big one? You're like, it's Tomb Raider. And then I was like, I convinced myself again. I'm like, yeah, 300 million just for Tomb Raider? Like, I think they'd want more, you know?
And you're looking at Deus Ex as well, and you're looking at the Avengers, and you're looking at there's a number of games involved. Legacy of Kain. Like
that stuff I think needs to go through licensing stuff of the Marvel and all. But yeah, from my perspective, I'm like, yeah, I'd love a Legacy of Kain reboot. They even have stuff like from back in the day, like talking about platforms and stuff. Gex is there, you know. But yeah,
it's Gex.
300 million
guys.
Apparently, like, you know, like we're just going off our perspectives. Apparently it is pretty low ball. Like this just like Square Enix really not wanting to deal with Western studios anymore. And like we were talking about it, Mark, with the Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, them just being disappointed constantly by their Western studio sales. So hopefully Embracer Group can actually do something and perhaps turn a profit with this stuff and put a little bit more oomph into the marketing and all.
You know what they should do compared to Square Enix? Positive reinforcements.
Yeah, no.
We talked about it, no joke, on our infamous Let It Burn podcast, aka Best of Worlds. Memories.
The first time we burnt it down, yeah.
We should make a remaster of that podcast. When I'm like, I'll just be a temporary host. What can go wrong? Well, here I am. Anyway, so yeah, like Square Enix disappointed in. Well, I totally get the Avengers, but like Guardians. And since that article came out, like it's come out like, oh, maybe not Square Enix, but because of the Game Pass, like they've seen a lot more sales
Mhm.
because of that game, which awesome. Such an underrated game, one of the best games from last year. Tomb Raider, they were disappointed in that, and which I'm like, no, that's it pretty well. So it's like, hey, this new company, Embracer, be like, hey guys, pat in the back, good job. And maybe because like that 300 million, like again, going back to the acquisitions, like I'm pretty sure Microsoft bought Activision, which I know, granted, way different and way bigger. And we just hear these figures of like 68 billion, 40 billion. It's like 300 million. It's like, let's chump change.
Yeah, for 2
In this market.
studios
Oh,
and
yeah.
the IPs. Yeah, like you're getting the staff and the IPs. Yeah. I was a bit like, is it a good deal, isn't it? But even just for Tomb Raider, I honestly think they could definitely get more.
So I wrote the news piece on it, and I did mention in it that the past few years I've seen an increasing number of independent studios being gobbled up by corporations, and while most of them have been received negatively, this one might be a different story because unlike Microsoft and Sony, the studios that they've acquired recently, like Bungie and Activision and stuff, Square Enix have been accused in the past of wasting these IPs, wasting, not doing anything with Legacy of Kain for years, and Soul Reaver and etc. And those, I think those franchises lying dormant for years has made this a bit more hopeful. And over the past few years, Embracer, they have kind of been building up some kind of stable of IP when you consider all like the THQ Nordic stuff. And I mean, they're becoming a major player. Like they've got really quite a roster behind them at this point, if you include all these games.
Exactly. And I just saw the Crystal Dynamics announced last month that they're making a Tomb Raider game. So it's like, hey, they have something in the pipeline. I mean, of course, it won't come out for, I'm going to guess, another 3 years at least. But it's like Tomb Raider, big cash cow. If they can work with the Marvel IPs, like if you build off the success of Guardians, and then like you can repeat like Sea of Kain and all of that. Like nostalgia's in.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And remakes are in.
Yeah, Embracer Group as well. Like I didn't realize it was THQ Nordic that had changed their name to Embracer Group after like started to acquire all these companies. Like they acquired Gearbox and everything. So and there's been this rumored like Time Splitters reboot or sequel for so long. So I hope it isn't another one of these ones where they buy it and it takes a little while for everything to come out. I would hope that now that they've got like so many studios and so many IPs, that they can start like pumping out these games and perhaps turning a profit and then not going into the red, and kind of ruining all our hopes and dreams for this Gex remake.
Woo, Gex. I'm excited for that. I love geckos. Geico.
Geico.
I'm sorry, foreign panelist. Geico is an insurance company with a cute gecko as the mascot.
Of course it is.
It's such an American thing.
Yeah, it's worth noting that like other like legacy of like Faith as well. They have Faith, the IP for it. Like its reboot didn't go down too well. They could try again now.
Yeah, Thief as well. Yeah.
There's just a lot of like nostalgic stuff here that they could reboot or do a sequel to.
Also, the teams that were acquired, although IO Interactive developed the Hitman games, I think it was is it Eidos Montreal or one of the teams that were acquired developed the Hitman mobile games like Hitman Go and Hitman Sniper. So I wonder how that's affected. Because I think IO Interactive, they're working on a James Bond game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they broke from
I was going to say that's an independent published game, isn't it? The James Bond title. Yeah, I thought that.
Yeah, they're their own like independent company now. Like they broke from, I can't remember.
That's interesting.
Dynamics or Eidos Montreal, but yeah, but I'd say because did they do Lara Croft Go, or was that another team? Because that would be interesting for Embracer to have like a mobile kind of division, because mobile's another hot thing as well as remakes and all.
I think Lara Croft Go was developed by one of the teams that were acquired. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That was enticing for them.
The studio is uniquely talented in creating mobile experience based on traditionally PC/console games such as Hitman and Tomb Raider. So yeah.
Interesting.
All right. Anything else you want to mention about Embracer Group?
I guess it could be the best of this. I've been over the last few weeks. I feel like I've been very much waving the end is near sign. Like, oh, we're all going to be working for corporate overlords before too long, and creativity is going to be dead. And but do you know something? I might kind of, the idea of having a large corporation on these valuable, beloved IPs might be an inherently negative one, but surely it's better than just having them lying dormant. Like Legacy of Kain, there's not been a game made in however long. They actually cancelled the game in the year since the last one was released. So I would rather see, even if it is a corporation and even if there is microtransactions and all the stuff that comes with that, would you not rather have that than nothing? I guess I always just set the bar low, don't I? That's what I come on this podcast about. It's just think of how bad it could be. This is slightly better. So
yeah, no, I think you're right. It's like the Konami situation with their IPs, right? Like you'd want someone to buy like those IPs and do something with them rather than having absolutely nothing going on with Metal Gear and Silent Hill and all those other favorites. Yeah, agreed.
Exactly. All right. Let's move on to something a little more fun. Not the end is near. Or maybe, I don't know if you like DC or not, Dan, but Gotham Knights turns out could possibly, not officially confirmed, but kind of is, will have 4-player co-op. So originally they announced like 2-player online co-op, which didn't make sense at the time because the game is following Batman's proteges, Nightwing, Robin, Hood, and Batgirl. So it's like 4 people. Yeah, and then it's 2 players. So it's like, oh, really? But maybe they're like, okay, never mind. We will have 4 players. So it was actually not confirmed, but so on the PlayStation Store, it now says supports 4 network players. And you know what's the first thing I thought of about this? I'm like, oh man, this game's gonna get delayed.
Don't say that.
It has been already, right? It's been pushed back. The current date is a delayed date, I believe. It was meant to come out summer, and it's now come out in like November. So it has been delayed already.
It has. I mean, I think they just announced like it was. They announced it in 2020, so I think they're like 2021, and then they're like, okay, it's going to come out next year, and then they announce, this current date. But I'm like, if this sounds like maybe this was something from the jumpstart of Gotham Knights, but if they change it, I'm like, okay, that's a lot more development time and all that. So I'm like, I could see the game getting pushed back. But Dan, what's your thoughts?
Honestly, I don't know if I mind it getting pushed back. For me, it's the marketing between this and the Suicide Squad game that I just think's a bit silly. It's like you've got 2 games coming out set in the DC universe, right? One of them is a part of the Arkham universe and developed by the same team that made the Arkham game, but it's not the one that you would think. It's not this Gotham Knights game, it's the Suicide Squad game, which looks way more in line with the recent James Gunn film. It looks more quirky and colourful and set in the daytime rather than at night, whereas you've got this Gotham Knights game developed by the team that did... I think my camera just died.
Oh, no.
But not your spirit, Dan, so keep on going.
Thanks, Mark, for that. That helped.
We'll hold a seance for that. Give me your hand.
Oh, no, the audio wall is going. Man, your British Scotland internet. What is it, Virgin?
You might not want to call it British Scotland.
Yeah,
that's FYI.
That's a risky one, especially when it's like Fine Island getting that stuff.
Yeah. Mark's going to be suddenly getting the hate mail.
Forward all your comments to Twitter at the Lord Jessica.
Should be back. Am I back?
Hey, you're back.
Yeah, so great chat about Gotham Knights. So moving on to the next bit of news. So new Mafia. No, just kidding. No. We were talking about holidays and me trying to find my AirPods. I showed the viewer Little House Tour.
Yeah, some great content we were making there.
Yeah, everything
Okay,
you see
Dan, you got
below
that sorted pretty
all the
quickly.
cushions on the
I hate
ground.
technology.
Yeah. Right. We were talking about Gotham Knights having 4-player, and Dan, can you remember where you were? Where you were?
I can go from the
Yeah.
top again.
Yeah.
I was, yeah. So the biggest issue for me, the biggest sort of thing that's not very clear with the marketing behind this whole thing, you've got this Suicide Squad game coming out from the same team that developed the Arkham series, and it doesn't look like an Arkham game. And then you've got this Gotham Knights game coming out, which looks like an Arkham game. And yes, okay, it was developed by the team that did Arkham Origins, but it's not developed by Rocksteady. Rocksteady are doing the Suicide Squad game. So that to me just right away was confusing. But the idea of a game based on the Bat family, it's like, sure. I mean, I don't really. Am I that interested if I'm not playing as Batman? I don't know. I mean, Batman died at the end of Arkham Knight, but I think we all know that the character's going to come back because it's a comic book, and that's what comic book characters do. They die and they come back. Whether or not Batman will come in to either one of these, one or the other of these games, I don't know if he'll show up in either the Suicide Squad or Arkham Knight, but because it's not even really been made clear where Gotham Knight is. God, these names are confusing. Whereas whether Gotham Knight is a canon part of the Arkham universe or not, or if it's like a spin-off or a multiverse, I guess since that's what's hot right now is multiverses. It's not really been made very clear. It's like this Robin and this Red Hood and this Batgirl, are they the same versions that we've seen in the Arkham games? Because that's never been really made clear. It's just, I don't know, it's just a bit messy. It's a bit unclear.
It is, but I don't mind the mess.
I'm speaking as someone who I only played Arkham Asylum, and then I don't know, other games must have released around the time. I've missed every Arkham game since then, even though I really love Asylum. I'm actually pretty excited for them to have not rebooted it, but go to a different story, so I don't feel like I need to go back to the first and then the second and then Origins and play it. I'm excited in that aspect, but I think what they're trying to do, you're right about the marketing. Do you remember with Marvel's Avengers, and they kind of it were like, oh, it's a single player game, totally single player game. Oh, but also it's this giant online game that you need to play with people. I feel like they're kind of trying to get away with it, but also have their cake and eat it at the same time. They're just totally single player experience. You can play it solo, you can play it on your own. Oh, but you can't have one other person. And then when people are like, well, it's a bit weird, you've got 4 people. Why can't you have 4-player co-op? Again, maybe they implement it after everyone was wondering about that, and perhaps it could delay it. But I also had another thought. Somebody in the article, it was the Eurogamer article we were looking at, had a thought that maybe it's a different mode in the game. So yeah, you can have co-op 1 and 2, but perhaps a different mode. It's two players against another 2 players, or it's like 1v4. Yeah, 1v4 or something like that.
Well, I mean, you go into any kind of massive online game like Call of Duty, for example, you've got 2v2, you've got 4v4. You've got different modes in different online games, so I don't see why not.
Yeah,
but then it's the story-based element. It's the idea of dipping in and out of a. Personally, I don't like playing story games in co-op. I would much rather play myself and then go into online for a different experience where you just have a laugh with your pals and you're not really paying attention to what's actually going on in the game. I find it quite hard to marry the two. I don't mind doing something like with my other half, Courtney, where we'll sit on the couch together and we'll play something. We're in the same room together, experiencing something together. But doing it online, there's too many jokes happening. There's 3 different people speaking in your ear. You can't hear the cutscene. I always feel a bit of a disjoint there, and I've never really been able to experience and enjoy a good co-op story game in that way. I would much rather just play it myself, in my own time and take it all in, and then you can enjoy the kind of co-op multiplayer modes.
Yeah, that was kind of my experience with Diablo. I really like Diablo, but boy, do I not pay attention to anything that happens in that story because I'm just having fun. When you're all you're like, oh, I'll go put in this quest, and they're explaining something. And you're literally just skip, whatever. Go to the next part. But if I was playing on my own, no way am I doing that. You're right. It's totally different. It's a totally different experience. So having a 2-player thing, I think, is a little bit better. Say, we were talking about Halo co-op is an incredible experience. I love it. If they were trying to do something curated like that. With this, I think as you add more players, it does get a bit more everyone's talking over each other, and you're right. You kind of just want to get to the next point where you can play the gameplay. So I'm not opposed to having 4-player co-op. I think it would be kind of cool if you all took on someone else, but I think Dan's got a point that it would kind of take away from the story, and that's kind of what these Arkham games are known for having an awesome combat system and an awesome story.
Exactly. And a couple things. One, I just want a Superman game. I'm just going to be on record.
Yeah.
And I know I'm already on record, but they were so close, WB Montreal. And there's a heavy rumor. This is not news. Like it's in development. I'm waiting on that day. I feel like this game, like going back to your Marvel Avengers point, like at least like so it was announced like 2015 they're making an Avengers game, and we're just all waiting and waiting and waiting. And then like the first trailer came out, people were like, oh, what is ill?
Yeah.
Like just watching it, and I at least with like the game announcement going to 2020 DC fandom, like it was a trailer, but it was also like 10 minutes of gameplay. So it's like, okay, that's how it like works. And then besides a story trailer, that's it. So we're beginning of May. I think this is the end of October or middle of November.
Yeah, it's October.
Yeah.
It's more like I not to be paranoid, but I just want to see more.
I think the one lesson to take away for this is be clear with your marketing and be clear with the kind of game that you're going to deliver. Because, like we're saying about the Avengers thing, like the Avengers game came out off of the back of the success of Spider-Man from Insomniac, which was obviously a phenomenal single-player solo experience. Everybody kind of wanted that, and the trailers kind of made it out to be this story game where you played as a different Avengers, and you played as Banner and Captain America and Tony Stark and whatever. And then it became this kind of, this kind of massive online game. The kind of opposite thing happened with Guardians of the Galaxy a few years later, because here's this team-based game. The game's based on a team of characters, and yet you're only playing Star-Lord. You're only allowed to play as that one character. That seemed on the other side of that coin, that seemed restrictive. So it was as if they were always trying to kind of course correct almost. It was like, Spider-Man was successful, so let's make an Avengers game and kind of sell it as a single-player game, but really it's an online game. Oh shit, people hate this. Let's do a single player game, even though it's based on a team. Like, it just felt so, I don't know, like reactionary almost, but in the wrong way. So I don't know. I wonder if maybe the Embracer Group acquiring Guardians, that problem will be solved over there. With the Arkham games, I think the lesson is for the DC games and the Warner Bros. Games, I think the lesson is just be clear about what kind of game you're actually delivering.
Exactly. Well, it's not even like Avengers was an online game. I mean, technically this counts as an online game. It's a game in progress. It's like that Destiny of like, hey, this is a start, but we'll add on, we'll build. It's like, no, we want the game now.
Heard that. No Man's Sky, heard that. Cyberpunk, heard that. No, if you can't deliver, okay, I don't mind. I've got a bit of leeway for these games. 6 months or a year, fair enough. But when you're 4 years down the road and the game's still not in the state that you promised, then what are you doing?
Hopefully making a Superman game. Maybe that's what the flag. Oh, we just had this on the back burner, and we were focused on something else. It's like when a new kid comes into your life, you forget about the old one.
That's exactly how it happens.
It's based on mine because I was the youngest and favorite.
Oh no, Dan.
Was Dan offended about my statement? It's true, Dan.
I was the firstborn, so I took that personally.
Dan's here.
Back again.
Hey.
Sorry.
Nope, you're okay.
Okay.
It's all good. That's what editing's for, Dan. We're all good.
That's why you should subscribe to our Twitch.
You're gonna miss out on moments like this, yeah.
Be like, oh god, so maybe we can do this and that, and just edit this part out.
Yeah, this is gonna be fun. This one.
And we still have Multiverse of Madness. Truly, this is madness. Okay, back to the show. So, there is a new Mafia game in development. So, Dan, You actually brought this story up in our Google Doc. What's your reaction?
So I didn't. This is one I think I mentioned this in the pre-show. I didn't report on this, and I didn't even know about it until one of our colleagues, Yusuf, mentioned it in one of the private chats that we've got. That he was going to cover it. But turns out they're making it a Mafia 4. Well, it's a Mafia prequel apparently. So the Mafia games, I don't know your relationships with them, but they've been going a few years. I mean, the first one was in PS2, the second one was on PS3, and then the third one was on PS4. And then recently they remastered, they did a complete remake of the first game, which I really enjoyed. And they also, I think they re-released the second game. It was just a HD kind of upmaster version because the PS2 version was really dated. So they kind of HDified that game and gave it a proper remake. And then the second game, they re-released that along with the third game. But I really enjoy the franchise. I've always been a fan of those games. And the idea of a prequel is exciting. And I also think that Hangar 13 are a really talented and somewhat underrated studio. They're not often spoken about when you talk about kind of creative, original studios. But Hangar 13 really, I think they really have something with the Mafia franchise, and it's also under the 2K banner. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this new game, and it sounds like the project's just pretty much starting. From what I can gather, it's in the very early days, and it's set in the 1920s. So way back. What I really enjoyed about the second Mafia game in particular, I remember that game starts in like the heyday of the Mafia, like the 40s, and when it was really kind of the 50s, when it was really kind of prevalent and a huge part of like American culture. And then the character goes to prison for like 10 years, and then when you come out, it's a totally different world. It's like big collars and big cars, and the music's changed, and the whole kind of culture of America had changed within that short period of time. And it was like the first half of the game was kind of set in the quote unquote good old days of the Mafia, and then the second half was kind of the start of the decline in the Mafia, when they started to get more into the drugs business and things like that. So yeah, fascinating kind of period of time. The fact that we're going all the way back to the 20s is fascinating, because that's, I mean, I'm not an expert, but that's like kind of almost like the birth of what we know the Mafia have been, was kind of in the early 20th century. So yeah, it's exciting. I'll definitely play this. It's a prequel, and I'm just looking forward to driving about in a pinstripe suit with a Tommy gun, shooting up a storefront and extorting people. It's it's great. I love these games.
Good, wholesome content.
That's it.
Do these games, Dan, I've never played a Mafia game. Do they play kind of like a Grand Theft Auto or something? Like it is that open world?
So to some extent, so the first game on PS2, obviously that was more streamlined, and the remake is also more streamlined. The sequel was kind of semi-open world, so you had this. I think it was set in Chicago, I want to say, or it might be New York, but there might be scenes in both. There might be different locations. But the thing I always remember is it was snowy. It was Christmassy, and I remember all the snow in the ground. And at the time, the tire tracks and the snow and stuff, being like, "Oh, that's pretty decent looking," and the footprints, etc. But yeah, they were kind of semi-open world, and then the third game, Mafia 3, that went kind of fully open world. That's like the most up to date. That was set in the 60s to the 70s, I believe. I can't exactly remember, but like the character you played as in the second game was in that third game as like an older mob boss, and you were playing as really interesting angle they took it from. You played as a black character called Lincoln, and it kind of dealt with obviously the racism of the time along with the mafia. So it was something that's I've not really seen explored in other kind of mafia media. So it had some really interesting perspectives to it, some really dark moments, some fantastic voice acting, and some solid writing. It wasn't the best game sort of gameplay wise in the world. It was, you could maybe accuse it of being somewhat generic open world game of the time, because obviously the last 5 years has been, open world games have been open world games, but Saints Row, Grand Theft Auto, etc. But yeah, it's way more. I'd say it's less chaotic than GTA. It's kind of more grounded. It's less satirical. It's more kind of straight down the line, semi not serious, but semi-serious, as opposed to kind of the outlandishness of things like Saints Row and GTA. It's a bit more straight-laced than that. But yeah. But I'm not sure. I assume this new game, it's using Unreal Engine 5, so I assume this is going to be an open world kind of style game.
Nice. Jessica, are you excited for a new Mafia game?
definitely play it. Like, it sounds like maybe it's a bit out if they're using Unreal Engine 5, like, because it's like a newish developer tool. But the way you described it sounded pretty cool. It's just one of those ones I missed, growing up. Like, I was beholden to whatever my brothers bought, so they didn't buy the Mafia game, so I never got to play it. It was on my radar when the remaster came out, or remake. Sorry, I can't remember which one it was. If they went on sale, I'd definitely be up for like going back, seeing them, and then. But also, this is interesting because it is a prequel. It's kind of like, oh no, you can just jump in if you've never played a Mafia game. And like you're right, the 1920s Mafia stuff sounds pretty interesting. So yeah, I'd be up for playing it. What about you, Mark?
I'm excited, and I was thinking like before it was like, oh, it's gonna be set in 20s. I'm like, man, I would love a Mafia game set in the 80s.
Well, they did that Scarface game back in the PS2 days. Remember that?
That's right. Yeah.
And Al Pacino did the voice for it. That's not Mafia, but it's still it's gangsters and it's drugs and it's guns and it's.
The thing is, I was about to do an Al Pacino impression. I'm like, don't.
Where's Miller when you need him?
I will not go on a tangent of how he was in Jack and Jill, the Adam Sandler movie. Al Pacino, Dunkachino. You guys know that?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. Yeah.
Yeah. Kids love it from 7 to 17. But we are not here to hear me sing Al Pacino's rap. Oh, yeah, that's a real thing, Jess.
It's another thing I'll add to the YouTube list.
Oh, this one will just stick with you. Adam Sandler is trying to get Al Pacino to do a Dunkachino, like Dunkin' Donuts, American coffee shop. So they have the Al Pacino, Cappuccino, Dunkachino. So at the end, you see the commercial and he raps about Dunkachino.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It's so horrific and bad that it's the best thing ever. Kind of like me talking. It's not really the best thing ever. It's just like, I was about to say this podcast, but I'm like, I'm not dragging you guys down. That's just rude.
Nah. Go ahead.
Like, just like this podcast. It's like Jessica's like,
yeah,
wow, F you. I took that personally, but I would love an 80s game. It's funny we keep talking about the Avengers game. I was so excited for Avengers that I'm like, like when you're just, oh my god, this game's coming out, and you're just like, I can't wait to play it, but you're just counting down the minutes. Yeah, that was sad for me. That was Avengers. I'm like, oh boy, this is gonna be good, and everyone's gonna love it.
To Avengers, I actually think it had a really pretty cool single player campaign. I liked it.
I loved it.
And then, it was the stuff that came after that wasn't so awesome the way they implemented it. But again, I liked the War for Wakanda, Kate Bishop, Hawkeye. I liked that they were doing that. Perhaps not. They were never really clear, and they never really had a good roadmap. And the whole Spider-Man debacle.
Yeah, because it's insane that this web swinging in Fortnite for Spider-Man is better than the web swinging in an Avengers game for Spider-Man.
Well, again, I can't even comment on it because I've got it for the Xbox, so no Spider-Man for me.
You'll live. Anyway, so the game I was playing beforehand was Mafia 3, just to pass the time, and that game was really good. And I feel like maybe a lot of people said it, or maybe not, but a lot of people around me was like, oh, this is like them doing GTA. And I'm like, I get it, but it's like, it still felt distinct. And you brought up the character of Lincoln, I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
So I haven't played the first two, and I definitely haven't played the definitive edition, but Daniel, I think you might make me waste $40.
That remake, as I'd say, if you've not played it, definitely worth going back to. It's a solid sort of Mafia story, if you like, a good Mafia story. And if off of the back of that you enjoy it, I would say go ahead and jump out the second game as well. I think if you buy, I don't know if this is still the case, but I remember when I bought that definitive edition, if you wanted to buy the second game remastered, you get a discount. I think if you buy it through there was like a wee window in the bottom left. It was like, I'll get 15% off, Mafia 2 remastered in the PlayStation Store or whatever. So I never went ahead with it because I already own the game on PS3 somewhere at my feet in one of these boxes or bags. But yeah, they're well worth playing. Well worth it.
And let me just clarify, like, it's not a bad thing of wasting $40 on this. It is a bad thing wasting $40 on the Red Sox. I'm not bitter about that. Nope. Not at all. Anything you guys want to add?
GTA Vice City. There's another 80s gangster game, actually. There you go. There's another one I just came up with. They should remake that. They've been saying that for years, but yeah, Vice City remake, please. But not remaster.
Vice City.
Don't give us one of these characters. Master.
You don't like those really elongated cars you can drive?
That first person camera, and then when you flipped it, you just seen CG's face like super close up around the bike.
Say what you will about it. That was some great YouTube montages we had. That. Art. Yeah, Mark's like, or as I like to call it, art.
You children don't understand this. Anyway, I don't have a transition for this last news story. But Jess, you're excited for this one. Prince of Persia remake will now be led by Ubisoft Montreal. And also, I didn't even know about this. Rumors of 2D5 Prince of Persia game. Jess, please elaborate on this.
Yeah, so if you were following this like I was, Prince of Persia, I know Dan, we were talking before, it's one of you like the game too. Like for me, that original Prince of Persia game on the PS2, it was one of those ones I played to death on the PS2. Loved it. It's like the definition of a really high quality single player game, and it kind of set the groundwork for the Assassin's Creed games. Like it was the same team that went over onto Assassin's Creed after that because they wanted to do like their own original IP and get that money for it. So I was really excited whenever they announced the Prince of Persia remake, because one of my favorite games. And then that famous trailer came out of it looking not so great, kind of like the beginning of the PS4 generation, end of the PS3 generation. I didn't even know it was being developed by didn't know these companies exist. It was Ubisoft, I think Mumbai, and another Ubisoft division. Now it's Ubisoft Montreal is taken over, so they're the ones that created Prince of Persia, that created that game that everyone thinks, well, a lot of people think are so beloved, including myself. So on the one hand, because I was actually thinking of doing a piece of what the hell's going on with Prince of Persia remake, because I genuinely was just like, they haven't said anything about this in so long. They delayed it. It was supposed to come out in January of this year. Just didn't say anything. Delayed it, like, oh, it's delayed. It's not coming out anymore. Didn't give a date. So it's given me major like Mass Effect Andromeda vibes. Like, they give it to sort of a startup studio. It was like, here's this IP. But because they're not as experienced as Ubisoft Montreal, it's not really their fault. It was taking a bit longer, had a negative reaction with people with the graphics. Now Ubisoft Montreal have taken it over. So we finally got some news. Yay. Kind of bummed though, because I felt like, oh, what's happening with it? I hope it comes out soon. It's definitely not coming out this year, they've said. But I am happy to wait for a good Prince of Persia remake, because the mechanics in that game are so solid. It's got a pretty fun story. And as well, the news that it was about a month ago, the rumors started dropping of a 2.5D Prince of Persia game, which Prince of Persia was originally kind of side-scrolling, like really tough type game where you had the platformer, right? Yeah, you had to avoid traps and there was enemies there. I played it and it's really tough, but it was fun. They're thinking of the rumor is that they're rebooting this, and it's going to be like inspired by Ori Will of the Wisps. So sort of a bit more Metroidvania elements. I'm really excited for it. And it seems like they're taking their time with that because they haven't like announced it. It was just a rumor. So I'm again happy to wait as long as it takes for these, if it's a good experience. Because Prince of Persia, man, I really like. They haven't done a Prince of Persia game since that remake for the 360, which I quite liked. But it
the one with No North and
the
cel shaded thing.
Yeah, like I didn't mind it, but it wasn't kind of the reboot I feel like people were after. And man, I love that original trilogy on the PlayStation 2.
did they not bring out a fourth game in the original series, or a fifth game technically, after that remake? Or was the remake the last thing they did?
Yeah, and I think they did a port of that old game. That's as far as they did.
What's
as I
this
know.
one? The Forgotten Sands. Was that not
that's
after?
what you're looking for?
That's the one I'm.
Yeah,
is that not the
sorry.
one I'm thinking of? The
No. Hold on.
I'm like, if you're not watching the video, Daniel is looking. He's showing
No.
his copies.
Hey, hold
Yeah,
on.
isn't that part of the trilogy?
So there's a trilogy, right? There's the 3 games. Where's my
Uh-huh.
camera? Right. So you've got, what was it? Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, Warrior Within, then the Two Thrones, and then I believe they brought out the remake we know in North, the cel shaded remake after
Yes.
that. And then
Yep.
I think the movie came out with Jake Gyllenhaal, and around that time they brought out this. The
Have I
Forgotten Sands.
totally missed the Prince of Persia game?
I think that's the most recent Prince of Persia game. I think
that-
I might be
Is that
wrong.
a continuation on from the trilogy?
I believe so. It's been a lot of years since I've played it. But I think so.
Oh my god, you're right. I
I may be
totally
wrong.
missed the Prince of Persia game. The game's plot marks a return to the Sands of Time continuity following the series' attempted reboot of 2008's Prince of Persia. Well, guess he has a new Prince of Persia game to go back to. I think it didn't do that well if they didn't continue on.
I don't know. I quite enjoyed it at the time. I don't really remember that much about it, but I remember it's not up to the legacy of the original trilogy, but it was okay.
Yeah.
It was okay.
Well, I'm excited anyway to have a new Prince of Persia game.
Jessica, you added a story because you said, "quote I am the biggest Prince of Persia
I
fan.
did not say I
I
was the
played
biggest
all the
Prince of
games."
Persia.
Mark, I'm adding this. I'm like, I'm such a cool guy.
That's honestly, I'm so excited that I have a Prince of Persia game to play.
Guys, I
Thanks,
know
Dan.
we won't have a trivia question this week, but guys, which Prince of Persia game did Jessica not play? But I mean, you guys are talking about it. I have not played any Prince of Persia games. I just know like the significance of it for 2 reasons. One, Jake Gyllenhaal. Say what you about the movie, but it's orange, so it's amazing.
It was an okay movie. I remember watching it. I wasn't like offended by it.
It wasn't horrible, but it was just it felt like Jake Gyllenhaal in a movie, an action movie. It didn't feel like the character for Prince of Persia. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly my issue with Uncharted, where you're like, good action movie, it's not Uncharted.
Yeah,
the thing is, it's like, Jake Gyllenhaal is very pale.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
And then that's it. But you know what? Maybe for when PlayStation Plus gets relaunched, I am going to get the premium tier. I think maybe it's already on PlayStation Now. I won't check. I'm too lazy to do right now. But if it is, you guys are hyping me up. That and Mafia. And then I'll be like, guys, I'm going to go back to Spongebob, even though I gave it a 5 out of 10. Because I'm that kind of person.
This is like the PS2 like podcast. We're talking about Prince of Persia.
Yeah.
SpongeBob, Mafia.
Yeah, tune in next week when we speculate what is the 360 about.
Yeah. Will it take off?
Yeah. And unconfirmed reports about a Red Ring of Death. More on 11.
It's probably nothing.
Nah, it is just, yeah, they'll fix it, right? Yeah. All right. Anything you guys want to add more about Prince of Persia before we wrap this up?
Excited to play this new Prince of Persia game I never heard of.
Yeah. With regards to the new one, I'm just glad that there's news because that means progress. You know, because like you just I heard they were redoing something with it, and I was like, oh hell yeah! And then lots of time passed and nothing happened. So the fact that we're getting a trickle is something.
Awesome. All right. So we are ending. I feel like this is like a mega week for KeenGamer because this will end this week's episode. But guess what? We have a special episode that we are going to record shortly. It'll be up later this week. We are doing a review of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, or should it be the madness of the multiverse?
More on these thoughts in the bonus episode.
Coming up on the 11 o'clock hour, Doctor Strange, 2 normal? Stay tuned. All right, Jessica, where can the fine people read your thoughts at?
Well, I'm kind of obsessed with Halo right now, so if you don't want to follow at Resi Jesse, I totally understand. But if you like Halo and horror content, you can follow me at Resi Jesse.
I love it. Daniel, where can people listen to you?
You can catch me at the Pop Shot podcast. We did an episode, funnily enough, on Doctor Strange. We also did an episode on the Moon Knight finale this week. So both of them will be going up in the coming week, and there's also back episodes about gaming and comics and all that good stuff. In terms of articles, I'm currently working on a list article based on a previous podcast discussion that I was on, where we spoke about the most disappointing games of all time. So it was a top 10. It's actually become a top 15 most disappointing games upon release of all time. So it's becoming a bit of a behemoth. So I'm writing it now. It's probably going to get trimmed down. I don't know when it's going to get uploaded, but that is in the works. So stay tuned for that. If you want to see, sort of keep up to date with it, if you follow me on Twitter at danboyd95, I will be sharing it when it's live.
Awesome. I mean, well, before this episode will be up, I'll have my review on KeenGamer of Doctor Strange. Spoilers. I mean, okay, spoilers for the score. It's minimum 9.0. So I'm going to be very positive in this review, and you can follow me on Twitter at LilMarco512. That's going to wrap it up for everything on this KeenGamer podcast. Please find us at Spotify, rate us 5 stars. We want to be a little higher in the feed so we can talk to you more lovely people just like you. That's right, listener. You're beautiful. You're breathtaking, as Keanu Reeves once said. I'm Marco Callahan. Thank you very much. We all hope you have a nice day.
Bye.
Cheerio.